Hello, everybody. Thanks a lot for attending this presentation. Thanks a lot, Giovanni and team to organize. I know what is it to organize stuff, so I appreciate when somebody else does it for me. So in this presentation, you will see, I will talk a bit of Pharo 11, a bit of the vision. I will show you. Why I cannot move, wait. My slide. Okay. So I want to thank all the companies and people that are sponsoring or involved into Pharo. I will not go into the detail. So just a word of presentation. I will go fast. So I'm working on all these kinds of things. Basically, I'm expert in language design. Some of the remarkable things. This is this year we won the ECOOP prize for test of time for the traits, which is nice.
Recording in progress.
And is it me? No. So I'm also working on maintenance.
That's UK Smalltalk feeding back.
Apologies, that's sorted. Sorry, go ahead, Steph.
Yeah, okay. So what I just wanted to tell you, in fact, maybe you don't know, but in fact, I am a Lisp guy at the beginning until 96. And then I discovered Smalltalk in 94, but it was not working on my machine. So I stay in Lisp. And in 99, I discovered Squeak. Was fun. Then in 2000, I was harvesting, that was called Harvester for Squeak fixes for 3 something. And then we started to clean Squeak a bit. And then with Marcus, we were the release master of Squeak 3.9. And then in 2008, we started Pharo. So just that you know a bit. The outline of the talk. So I would like just to briefly talk about the vision behind Pharo, the goals. They are a bit similar. So after I will have an intermezzo on marketing thoughts. You will see, this is a bit provocative, but like that, who knows. And then I will show a bit Pharo 11 and some stuff that we did over the year. And then I will conclude, you will see. So the vision of Pharo is that basically what we want to do is that we want to deliver high quality, robust language and runtime to support complex software systems. When I said complex, I mean, for example, Lifeware has 30 million lines of Pharo code. This is this kinds of complexity that we would like to manage, that we manage. We also want, besides Pharo, we really want to focus to support business. That's really important, and this is something that we do. I will show you some little actions because at the end, this is not obvious. We are not just an open source software. We pay attention to companies. We want to have a modular system, and we are working since 1 decade on that. And versatile. What I mean is that we want to be able to have a system that can manage gigabyte images. Last time we did a little experiment, and then boom, I got a 4 gigabyte image still working. Sebastian, a guy in my team, told me, oh yes, my image now is 11 gig. So I said, okay, maybe this is too large because the garbage collector is not really done for those kinds of size. Up, down to 200K, like what I love what Eric on Bike is doing with running the Pharo kernel in a Squid.js virtual machine on the web. I love this stuff. This is really cool. So, and an important point is that basically we want to have an evolving system. The idea is that I will show you there are stuff that are only in Pharo and not in the other Smalltalk, or Smalltalk in general. If Pharo is in another Smalltalk or not, you decide. The idea, this is really, we want to be able to add new things, change things, make the system better. So if you look at, so this was a bit the vision, so this is a bit fluffy. The goals, if you remember, so what we want at the end of the day is we want this. I don't know what is this picture from, but I love it, just the color. But I like the quote of Alan Kay to say the best way to predict the future is to invent it. And for me, I would paraphrase it by saying the best way to predict the future is to have a powerful engine to reinvent your future. That's our goal. This is, we want to reinvent the future. And then this is also this one. This is, we really want to sustain, build, support an ecosystem where innovation and business can bloom. So from that parenthesis, this is, yes, you can do money with Pharo. There is no problem. We are there to support you. There is the industrial consortium that is actually quite successful from that perspective. And when I mean innovation, you see something that strikes me when I look at Seaside. Back then, I was like, wow. I was jealous of Seaside because, in fact, Seaside was super cool. It was taking the opposite direction from PHP and using continuation-like kind of stuff to propose a super nice model. And I like that from that perspective, because the idea, this is really how can we promote innovation so that people can get an edge on a solution. What we also, the goals that we have doing over the release and our yearly work, this is really try to really have this super cool live environment system and tools. And this is really something where we work a lot. I will show you a bit, some stuff there. And really this notion of ecosystem. So this means that we do not think like we are doing our stuff in our corner. So this is really open source. People can contribute. We are not that many from that perspective. Some companies are much more people than us, the team. So this is super nice to engage people and see the impact that they can have. So I just, when I was preparing this presentation, I remember the talk I did at Small Talk 2008 or 9, I don't remember the exact date, at Buenos Aires. And I just want to show you because it was fun. I want to share that with you super fast. Huh? That was the title of my talk. I have a dream. What you should imagine is that when I did this presentation, it was just the beginning of Pharo. Maybe the version 1 was not even released. And these are the first slides of the presentation. I like them because they're a bit provocative, so that's cool. And yes, I like this one. I want more. So for me, Small Talk is the beginning of the story, and then we should invent the rest. We should build on top. So that's why I did it. And then I was just brainstorming in this presentation because at that time I had not much, just dream. But my point is that can we make sure that we can invent Smalltalk 3000? That was my point. And you see, first class instance variable, we have them now. Immutability bits, we have them. We work on visibility, and I don't like what we have, so it will not be put in production. Modules, we spend 3 PhDs trying to understand what we really want, and this is not just a namespace looking like Java with dot inside the class. But this means that, and you can read the papers, because we got at least 3 PhDs on the topic. So, and when I created Pharo, some people were pissed off because, they were like, oh yes, this is against Quick. No, this is not against anything. This is for something. This was to open space. And you see, I was like brainstorming. So why can I use a Smalltalk to be the language to invent new other language and things like that? And then I checked software engineering because I'm a software engineer in my blood, basically. So continuous test integration. Yes, now we have it. Or we have it since many years. Better code manipulation, extreme programming. Now we coined extreme TDD because I think that we do not market well our system, but extreme TTD, this is, oh, you write a test, the test fail, you write in the debugger, and then you continue and your system and the test pass, and then you write the next one and you write in the debugger and continue. So this is TDD on steroids, bug tracking, those kinds of things. The UI, so we have multi-touch support, much better than some proprietary version, backend with Cairo, new IDE, so we are working on that. And I will tell you a bit where we are on that perspective, because there are things that we are not happy with it. This is just that we have what we have. So back to the present. So about this idea of an ecosystem where innovation or business can bloom, I will not go over the list because that would be too long, but I really encourage you. So we are redesigning the Pharo.org success webpage, but there are some super cool success stories. Have a look. If you code something in Pharo, by the way, success means no, you don't have to wait that you are the next Google or Meta to send us a little email to say that you have a success. A success means, okay, I built something and this is working with Pharo. We do not guarantee that you will make money just because you write something in Pharo, but this is a success because you could build it. So please send us, we have a stream of success stories that we will restart to send around. Now, what I wanted I wanted to have an intermezzo about marketing. So because, you know, recurrently there are some people that said, yes, why Pharo is why Pharo is not a small talk, or why they don't say that this is small talk, whatever, you know, that kind of things. And then I want to share with you some thought.
Stephane, can you
Yes.
just hold on a minute?
Yes.
I had a question written in the chat, but nobody cares, I guess. So on modules, did you give up on them then?
Sorry?
Did you give up on modules? You said
No.
PhDs went down the road. So do you have a solution, or did you give up?
No, we didn't give up. You know, we are discussing about restarting. We did, you know, over lunch we are just discussing about that. You know, so we will redo an iteration. This is we were thinking that some of the constraints that we put, maybe they are not the one that we should put on the table. Like this can be a really technical question, like do we share or not a binding for the class in the global namespace and things like that? What does it bring us? And all these kinds of things. But also to the point of what is the scope of a class extension? What do we do with that? So you see, so for example, we were discussing also about selector namespace, and then a student asked, okay, where is the paper on selector namespace? We said, okay, there is none. So there is a bad workshop paper. So let's try to see. So yes, this is already on the table. I think that probably I will go to Canada to work with a guy that work on class extension on static type system, and then he visited us and he started to hack the compiler, or the Pharo compiler, like a mad. And I said, oh, maybe we could put our brainstorm together and see what we can do and things like that. The key point is that, you know, we don't want to put in production things that are not
perfect.
What we want, not perfect, you know. We accept that this is not working correctly, but
yes, but I think for your vision of having super big projects, you really need modules. Otherwise, big projects will just be impossible.
Yeah, I will tell you a story. You know, I will tell you a fun or sad story. I discussed with the guy that we are doing Dr. Scheme. And then they have papers on module system, blah, 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 in the best conference and things like that. So we read them, of course, we know them. And then once I was in a restaurant eating with one of the guys, and I said, oh, you know, we were discussing 10 years ago about modules and things like that. And he told me, oh, you know, by the way, don't copy what we did in the paper, because in fact, it does not work in practice. It does not scale. You have ripple effect. So we changed it. And I said, oh, what? Did you record it that somewhere? Can I read it somewhere? Because I want to know the things that are not working. And then he told me, no, we never publish on that. So that's why We read all the GRS proposal for module system for Java, even the one that nobody understands. And sometimes I don't understand them either. So this is just that, yes, you see, this is complex. We need concentration. And then another difficulties is that we don't want to break all the tools.
I know it's a big tool question. Visualworks took at least 10 years to do the tools right for that.
Yeah.
Yes, but you have to start somewhere. I mean, without, I don't know, modules and packages. That's a big issues for big systems. I mean, you have to compose things.
Yes,
it's impossible to load just the source in one big batch or what something.
But you see, from that perspective, Pharo is quite complex. And there is
yes, of course,
700, more than 700.
And it's extremely hard to navigate.
You know,
make sense of packages or anything like that. It's, I don't know. I miss modules and miss packages.
Me too. You see. So,
okay, so that's all. Thanks.
So, but by the way, let's make a deal with everybody in the room. If you have €1 million, you put them on the table, and we bring module for real.
Okay, cool.
That's not a joke. You see,
yeah.
At the end of the day, this is: do we want Pharo to run on M1 or not, or do we want module? Because at the end of the day, this is the question that we ask ourselves. This is said, okay, do we want a more powerful garbage collector or a faster VM? Or a VM that compiles.
Do you see modules in that category, really?
Do
you see modules in that category? Processor compatibility against modular system? I think it's completely different things. Completely in different categories. It's not comparable at all. I mean,
in terms of salary, yes, Christian. Yes, in terms of salary, when you have to take a decision, you take a decision.
No, you have to allocate resources, of course, yes, but it's the question of what is important. What is more important?
Wait, you know, we can keep this. I think that I should continue. What I can tell you.
I was good. This is a good debate at the end, actually. I think, and a useful one. But let's continue down there.
Yes.
Also, as a correction, Pharo has packages.
Yes, Pharo has packages and a package management system. But okay, so let's go back. So you see, just something that maybe you don't know, but for me, why we created Pharo is that at some point, we face a decision, or I face this decision. Do I jump in Python or Ruby or Lua, or do I do something to keep my little flame inside about Smalltalk? That was the real question. You know, at some point in 2008, I had to decide. So I said, okay, let's give a chance. Let's try to do something. And then there was the point, these questions that, do you really remember 1980? That's a key question. Because for me, I don't. I was too little. And those are the computers that they got at that time. And those kinds of cars. And I was like, oh, wow, that 1980. Okay. So, you know, something that kills me. Each time I see people that tell me, oh, Pharo, this is the Smalltalk 80. I'm like, oh, wow, that's so sexy. You know, I cannot understand that people don't understand that Pharo or Smalltalk is beautiful and that the object model is still super nice. But let's face it, you know, each time we said Smalltalk 80, we are scaring everybody else. Who want today, except the crazy people, to work on a language that has been invented 50 years ago? Seriously. Seriously. I don't want to fight against, I don't have millions of marketing power of Java or whatever. So you see, so for us, the key aspect is that, yes, we like Smalltalk, else I would do Python today. And I could be sexy too, by the way. I would do machine learning in Python. What a hype. But a lot of people are doing that, and this is cool. So we decided to say, okay, we do Pharo. because this is not Pharo 80. This is because this is Pharo, and that's like that. And Pharo is Pharo. So, and I wanted to share this mindset with you because what I understood is that people outside there, they believe that what is new is cool. So in that case, we should just be new. Like that, we will be cool. So that's why that was really the really basic thing behind that and this positioning. So now, if you look at some aspect of Pharo, if you check about it, for example, we have a bootstrap. It means that we can, in fact, it's not we can, we rebuild the image from the source each time we integrate a change. We have a lot more tests. I think that each time we integrate a fix in Pharo, we run something like 90,000 tests. We have first-class instance variable, which are really cool. We have quite some libraries, an industrial consortium, which is nice to have, especially because like that, it shows to all kinds of people and my institute in particular that we are doing real stuff. There is a real Git integration. I think that the Git integration, personally, Git is not my favorite versioning system. It is just the one that we should use. So people told me you should use it. I said, okay, I will use it. I will learn this crappy interface. But what is super nice is that in Pharo, we have a real integration and not just, we don't just file out files and then help yourself on the command line. Because if you think about it, when you have Git, when you manage Git with Pharo, you have a double working copy because the reflective class have their own versioning system or their own code. And the code of your class that is living in your image is not the one that is on your disk. So what I like with Iceberg is that it abstracts away and a model to manage this double world. And that's super nice. So now we have ephemeron for real. When I said for real, is that we often say that we have them, but we never put them in production because we got bugs. And now we have even tests for ephemerons. So this is nice. Super cool community. Now we are running Pharo, deploying Pharo on 11 platforms, ARM, x86, M1. We are not deploying it yet, but we have a JIT for RISC-V. So this means that we can start to run Pharo on the new device that are getting out and that have a RISC-V architecture. In Pharo 11, we have a permanent space. So this means that you can manage big images without forcing to do the GC on all these aspects. We have multiple graphics backends. We can improve their traits. We have also some really nice feature that I love. This is automatic rewriting deprecations. So this is super cool. You want to migrate to a new version of Pharo, one library slightly change and deprecate one method, and then the system rewrite it automatically for you when you run your test. I love that. And also a lot of documentation, because if you look retrospectively, over the last 10 years or 15 years, the book that got out of the Smalltalk world are basically coming from Pharo, and most of them from me. So, and for me, this is important. Of course, we have place to improve. You see, we cannot do everything. So we are missing some database driver, but we have some nice support. We want a good modern, and I will talk about that, UI. So we are working on a new Morphic. We would like to have it more modular, you see. So this is for me, I would like to have a dynamic inliner, a speculative inliner, like the modern virtual machine out there, because the virtual machine of Pharo as a baseline JIT, it's okay, but the question for us is how can we control the engineering time so that we can have a dynamic speculator, and we are not really good. We could have a much better support for Windows. I have tons of other cool ideas, you know. So as I said before, so this means that if people have money, we can really do other stuff. Oh, the problem right now would be to read to staff, but so now I want to discuss a bit about Pharo 11. My impression is that people were thinking, oh yes, Pharo is moving too fast, blah, 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 blah. Not that much. So, and in Pharo 11, for example, this is really a stabilization iteration. There are big things that were done before because we had to do it. And now this is more improving. You see, so we had a lot more fix, but no major things, more documentation. I will show you that. Better compiler, better VM. Just a parenthesis, just something that happened to us a month ago, something like that. We maintain a large code base ranging from all the L of the C libraries that we should compile, and that can take you two weeks to compile on Windows, and then you fight the DLLL, to libraries that we decide that yes, we should maintain them, like for example Voyage. Esteban right now is working on an upgrade of the Mongo driver because we know that some people use that for their application. But a month ago, for example, we helped a company that had problem in Pharo 7. Pharo 7, this is 6 years ago, something like that. So of course we cannot allocate too much time for that, because else we would only do maintenance. But this is not like if we don't maintain things, we don't pay attention, we don't have you know, when we have a good fix in the alpha version of one version, we have a fix that we push back to the stable version and things like that. So I think that, you know, in the team we are what, 5, 6, and then I'm not full-time on that. And Guichet is a researcher, and Marcus too. So this is, I think that from that perspective, we have a good throughput. So let's look at it. So from the tool, Iceberg was a bit revamped to hide all the complexity of Pharo for the people that come. When you develop in Pharo, you don't have to see our mess with the fact that, for example, everything is red, and then because people got confused. So now we remove that part. So we have panes. So like that, you can really work with Iceberg without seeing our code and our repository and things like that. So we have a better debugger, and the debugger will continue to improve. There will be a presentation at ESUG on the roadmap for the debugger. We are really working a lot on that. Ideally, what we would like to have a back-in-time debugger, because that would be cool to have all the computation and to be able to go back at some place. So we started we got a PhD, for example, where we have that was working really on what can we ask if I give you all the computation of a system. How do you express questions there? How can you navigate back and things like that? And this is working. This is not a real back-in-time debugger, but this is already something that is quite nice. And then we want to push this object-centric debugging things. We are reworking on how can you, as a developer, can script your own debugging script. Like that, we would like to support domain-specific debugger actions, and to be able to script your debugger. We did another step in the fluid class definition. I will show you what is it, because now this is working quite well. Let's say it like that. And we are removing, so we started to clean a bit so that to deprecate the old class definition, and just to package it so that if we want to load all code, we can still load all code, but that all the tools, all the tooling only use the fluid definition. we got a better version of the rewrite tools, better refactorings, and the documentation browser that has been developed by Casper Osterby or Osterbu. So I have a thought for him because Casper now is really sick and he cannot program anymore. So it was like, this is really, I really want to thank him for all the work he put on that. So what you see is that, again, to be able to focus on what is super important and do not look just strange for the sake of being strange. Over the year, I designed Microdown, which is a markdown language that is better than Markdown. So in fact, this is a subset of Markdown, but a superset, because when you look at Markdown, there are plenty of things that you cannot do with it, and there are all kinds of different ways to do the same. So I said, okay, what is the minimum setup so that people could believe that they are writing Markdown, but in fact, I can write books, we can write slides, and we have an open format for the documentation. So now we have, with the same way, we are able to display the comments in Pharo. We have class template, we have documentation with the browser, and we will be able to browse book directly from inside Pharo, with the win that you can also, that people are able to display that in GitHub. So like that, you have the documentation on GitHub that we can display in Pharo. So we try to unify all these things so that we don't have, oh, sorry, you write your README or your document in GitHub because this is cool. And then in Pharo, no, you should not, you should use another language. So it took us time. What you get is that you get these kinds of things. So this means that here I show you this is a class comment. And then we have templates. So this means that, for example, depending on the kind of class that you browse, you as a developer, you can change the template. So we provide a builder, and I will show you what Esteban did. So for example, for spec, everything that you see here on the screen is generated from the code. From the regularity of the code, we generate some comments that are always up to date, because the problem of the documentation is that this is never up to date. So you see, so the class presenter, this is basically the application model in Pharo, have special templates that you can program, that people can program and do whatever they want with that. About the fluid class syntax, I don't know if you know it, but this is, I'm sorry for the quality of the screenshot. But the idea, this is that we don't use this subclass, instance variable, names, class variable, name, pool, dictionaries, blah, blah, blah. First, because I was always joking people about that. I said, okay, Smalltalk, this is the only language where you have the full BNF of something and they don't know what is a parser to avoid to have default values that make no sense. So, but that was a joke. So here, what you see is that basically, why did we do the fluid class? Because we had a combinatorial explosion of the argument that were needed for the class definition. We have, I don't know, 50 methods just to be able to manage all the possibilities and things like that. When we introduced ephemerons, we added more of them. It does not scale. Now with this fluid, in the sense of fluid, this means that the lesser is basically, it will create a builder, a class builder. And then after you have layout, thread, slot, shared variable, pool, shared pool, tag. All these guys are configuration messages that you can put in any order you want. We don't care. And then you have package that is closing and saying, okay, please to the system, to the class builder, please install this class for me in the system. And like that, we have just something that is small. It looks a bit like other languages. You know, again, the idea this is, can we avoid to be always different for everything and focus on where we should be different for real? And so basically, we now, this is the default syntax for Pharo. It's made in a clever way. So this means that you can ask a class, can you expand and show me all the possible options that I have and things like that. So basically, if you see, it was sketched and presented at ESUG in 2017. We released the first version in Pharo 10. And now this is the default. This is the default syntax for Pharo. We didn't put it on, but there is a settings where we can put it on. And then we started to prepare to fade away the other class definition, so that we want to keep one format for the old Pharo and one format for the old Squeak, and not 20 different variations. So in Pharo 11, we got another iteration of a first class instance variable that are called slots. Because that come from Common Lisp object system that has a first class instance variable since 1980. And this is nice. This is working well. So the question that we will have in the future, this is, well, maybe we can fade away the instance variable, the strings around, because why do we need strings? And take advantage of that. So we can, so this means that we have a instance variable that have a protocol and they can control their semantics. So for example, a basic one, this is one that will raise announcement each time its value gets changed. And with Marcus, we always wanted to have that since, well, I don't know, maybe 10 years. So finally we did it. So that's nice. The system, so we got in Pharo 11, we got constant clean block. So this means that all the blocks that return a constant now are special blocks and they are optimized. I cannot tell you more, but you can ask Marcus. I guess that he will do a presentation of that. We got more optimization and inlining from the compiler point of view. There was a really big effort on the ephemeron finalization, so that to make it production ready. When I mean that we were chasing bugs that during 3-4 months, because they are bugs in the garbage collector. So sometimes they arrive, sometimes not. And then when they arrive, you cannot reproduce them. So we did a system, so Guichet did a system so that we could develop tests to reproduce and to chase those kinds of bugs. And we published that in the best conference in testing. So Guichet and Pablo had a hard time and they worked really well to stabilize the system. Now we can have really 100,000 and more ephemerons. We run a stupid experiment where we created an ephemeron for each object in the system. So this means that each time you allocate an object, you allocate 3 basically. And then we got several million of objects like that, and the system did not crash and was robust. So there was a lot of work at the VM level and also at the image level. So this means that the weak collection now are using ephemeron. Before they were using a not very good implementation that was slow and things like that. So we are happy to put it in the system. So from the VM, this is what I said. So we got many GC bug fixes. We put in production a lot of cleans, remove a lot of code, experiment, dead code, and things like that. Pablo developed for Liveware a permanent space, but not only a permanent space. So Pablo wanted to also propose tools so that you can understand the behavior of your application and see how you can take advantage of the permanent space. So this is not just a save and then the garbage collector will not pass on these objects. This is also, okay, I would like to analyze my application and that you tell me, yes, maybe this is better to put those objects in the permanent space. We got an initial support for SIMD instructions, where we speed up largely the object allocation and things like that. And this is not in production. And this is it was interesting to do the experiment because it raised the question of how do we want to expose those kinds of single instruction, multiple data instruction to the user. So this means that do we have a special do we want a special bytecode? Do we want to give a kind of a DSL for the people that would like to take advantage of that for their computation and things like that? We got a lot of update of third-party libraries, like, you know, facing all the GitHub change in the library and protocol and thing that breaks and all the maintenance part that is super fun on all these platforms and things like that with newer libgit, newer Cairo version, newer whatever on all the platform. So I was looking at an old presentation and I really like these things. This is what Pablo was saying, is that if you have a, I don't know, a box, an egg box like that, normally if you want to put if the box is full and you want to put another egg, you have to remove one. And this is really what we are trying to do. Sometimes we fail, but so, and this slide I don't want. Yes, this one. Yes, I just wanted to put that in perspective, you see, because this is not for Pharo 11. For Pharo 11, basically, I told you everything that I wanted to tell you. I can answer questions. Now I wanted to show, basically, when I said realizing the vision, this is what we were doing over the year. So if I go back, oops, sorry, I go in the wrong direction. So really removing duplicated functionality, cleaning the architecture. When we, for example, we revisited all the startup list, all the dependence between the kernel things inside the system. When we put in production the bootstrap with Guichet, it took us 6 months to make it, because it was working, but then after you want to make it for real and test all that stuff. So for the tool, yes, over the year, we have now the possibility to plug different debuggers to have a better way to handle the exceptions and to control, because we want to be able to say, oh, you know, maybe this debugger should be open because it's the one that is more important for you. And it was, for example, people in Vrije University Brussels, they use that for doing a debugger on big data systems. And we will continue. Yes, so what I was saying for the VM is that there was a moment where the VM was something where we did not know anything. Oh, yes, we knew the basic things. And back in 2017, we took the decision to say, okay, we need to control the VM. We need to be expert on that. And it took us basically 4 years. And in fact, we went faster than that, but there is being expert and being expert. So for me, something that was super nice, this is that when we could deploy the JIT for M1, what you should understand is that we developed the JIT compiler without having access to the virtual machine, with the real machines, because we couldn't buy them from Apple at that time. And when the machine arrived, it took us 3 days of work to have the virtual machine working. So we also revisited completely the threaded FFI, get rid of the old polling event loop. We got rid of all the logic for event. This is not anymore in the system. This is not the virtual machine that managed that, because just for fun in the past, we never got the scrolling event. They were simulated, so we could not do much with that. Or sometimes, if I don't remember exactly, but we could not even know when a shift press key was released. You have to simulate it somehow. So now we can also customize the policy of the garbage collector. That was more in Pharo 10, something like that. currently we are working on something that is not ready for production, but we are working on a ahead of time compiler. So what you can think of, this is if you take a super small LLVM compiler, and the idea this is, can we generate assembly code on the before the execution, just statically? And this way we are learning all the algorithms and things like that. Why we are doing that is that in the virtual machine, there are a lot of code that is basically assembly code generated by an expert over a kind of a DSL. And then we want to know, okay, can we generate automatically this code from the code of the interpreter that is in the system? And we are working on that. And then we have also some nice ideas that we will try to see if we put them in production for Pharo 12. What is really interesting, this is that now we have the vision of the VM that is integrated inside the Pharo perspective. So we can think about what should we do and what is the impact, how could we optimize that a bit more. I just want to tell you a fun story. At some point, some years ago, we wanted to know, so the JIT basically has a code zone. So the code zone, this is the place where the assembly is generated, and the code zone is not infinite. And we were just thinking, oh, you know, what will happen if we multiply by 2 or 10 the size of the code zone? And then, so we did it. And then Pharo was slower. And we realized, why? How this is possible? I have more assembly code in my assembly cache or zone, and the system goes slower. And in fact, what you should see is that when you get that, you have no tools, or really you are a bit limited to understand what is happening, because in fact, the JIT is a living system too. You know, it will, depending on the execution, it will fill up differently. So what we did, we wrote tools to understand what is happening inside the JIT. And then we realized, what is happening is that, in fact, the garbage collector takes some time because he has to go inside the assembly code, disassemble the code, because some objects in the assembly are referenced from the assembly, and then we should not garbage collect them if they are referenced there. So it was really interesting at 2 levels. This means that we need better tools to really produce better virtual machines. So we have some nice extension where we can see control flow graph and basic blocks. We were also studying things that how the people at Apple, for example, or Google are doing for the virtual machines, and also work on tools that can help us to understand the runtime of the system and things like that. We did a lot of experiments to see, for example, can we inject, can we use a better representation on the code inside the JIT? Because right now there is no basic block, but all the compilers, the modern compilers, they have basic block structure with a control flow graph and things like that. So we learn a lot during these years, and then we will continue. So we have a research project on that and new people coming. So that's super cool. So it was a bit long, but this is super important because this was a huge stress for us. So now we got a headless version for real, like a true server side. Pharo an image can be embedded inside the execution. We use a SDL backend. So this means that like that, if you do interactive application, you get all the events that you want and that are there. So that's really nice. And all this event has been removed from the virtual machine. So like that, we don't have to maintain that in C and ugly code. So I will show you what we are doing, because in fact, for me, we still have this old morphic look and widget set. And this is 8 years that we are trying to find enough momentum to push morphic out of the cliff and that it fall on the sea. but for that you need a replacement. So I'm not really satisfied because we really wanted to have HDPI. So we did. It's not that we did nothing. We spent 6 months having a backend that support with Cairo that can render everything super nicely, but this was too slow. So this is like, okay, what do we do? So what do we have in the back burner? So we have a new graphical framework, low level, that is called Block. So we got a presentation at ESUG last year to show what can be done there and optimization and things like that, because there was all the question of what is the backend, should we use this backend, that backend, how do we model the canvas, do we use the stateless, stateful canvas, and all these kinds of discussions. So on top of Block, now we have a new set of widgets. I will show you a bit. And then we have a support for native window that will be integrated in the next 2 months. We had it was alpha, because what we want is that we want to go outside of the monolithic environment. I like it, but people want to have multiple native window, so let's give that to them. It will, like that, you will see that the desktop application that you can do with Pharo, they are a bit modern. The problem is that this means that you have to go over all the assumptions that are made in the system, that we are believing that there is only one window or one host or one whatever, and then now you have multiple of them. So it is some work, but now this is nearly working, and that will be pushed into Pharo 11 by maybe before the summer. Pharo 12, sorry. Now we took a decision. And we said, okay, it was something like 5 years ago. We said, okay, we cannot abandon the desktop and the UI. First, because we have partners that are doing really sexy UI, like a simulation system for aircraft and submarines and all that kind of things. And then what we decided, we said, okay, we cannot rewrite every 5 years all the tools. Each time we will change a backend, we are dead. We have to do something else. Especially because when you rewrite, often you lose features. So what we started to do, we started to re-implement clean Spec 1. And Spec 1 was influenced by VisualWorks. And now we remove this influence because we learn in the process that this is not what we wanted. We don't want something static. So the Windows spec, I was a guy that knew VisualWorks, so I was like, okay, we could have something a bit static like Windows specs, but we don't want that. So Spec 2 now is fully dynamic. You can program your spec and then turn an object and get a dynamic user interface. So we rewrote all the tools and everything that was written in Spec 1 into Spec 2 and kill Spec 1. We let Spec 1 in the system during 2 or 3 iterations while Spec 2 was already working so that people can migrate. And then in Pharo 10, we remove Spec 1 or Pharo 11, I don't remember. We got support for new widgets, new layout. And we have the support for multiple backends. So this means that by default, you have Morphic, but Esteban did some super sexy GTK 3 or 4. I think that now this is 4 application. So this means that and what is nice with GTK is that you have multiple skins. So this is super nice. And then what you see is that in Italy, this is Toplo. So Toplo, this is, I will tell you a bit after, but this is the new widget set. And this new widget set will integrate. And our goal, this is that all our tools that are written, everything that is written in Spec 2 should work in these 3 platforms. With also the constraints that we want to be able to offer people the possibility to write Cairo on the platform. So this means that if you write something using ROASAL in Morphic, you can make it work in Cairo too. Oh, it should work in Cairo too. So this means that like that, people can do special UI for their needs on the different platforms. So if you look at this effort, now we are getting at the end. I think that Pharo 12, I hope that we will have really reached what we wanted to do. This is converting all the tools using spec, support this mix of backends, have these multiple backends, and then remove Morphic and use block and Toplo instead. So just to give you some, so this is GTK. I took that from a previous presentation of Esteban. Everything that you see on the screen is GTK. You have if you go on his website, you have a chrono, which is nice because he has a special icons that show the amount of time that you spend on a task, and they are computed, they are drawn dynamically. He has also even a kind of textual user interface for spec in case you want. And then for us, what is super important, this is the test. So this is that we have tests at different levels. And what is nice is that the test also can work as acceptance test for a backend. So, and we run all the tests for the different backends, like that we know that we are compliant. So Toplo, basically the name is stupid. This is on top of block. Huh? This is sponsored by Thales. So Thales, this is the company that is doing all kinds of software for the defense or the surveillance. For example, they do all the requirement engineering and the user interface for aircraft that check people that are lost in seas and things like that, or if you have a boat that is not well identified, and all the surveillance of the country. Toplo will have skins. So basically, these people at Thales, they are experts in user interface, and they told us, oh, you know, we want to have a skin-based system that is based on end.design. So if you want to click on the end.design link, or you can browse, you will see what is there, and this is what we will use. We hope that by the end of the summer, we will have a spec backend. Currently, what we have is that we have all the widgets except the trees and tables, and then we have a first skin iteration, and it looks like that. So last week, the guy that is working on the debugger, Steven, said, "Oh, in half an hour, he built a little debugger interface using Toplo." He said, "Okay, I have half an hour." I asked him, and he said, "Okay, it took me half an hour, and this was fun." Of course, because they clean a lot all the model of the debugger in Pharo. So after, this was just the model and a couple of buttons. So what you see here is that you have the quality, the screenshots are not very nice, but we have all the support for button menu, animation, combo box, selection like on the Mac for the list, things like that. And then people are starting to have these different kinds of skins with different icon sets and things like that. So that's basically where we are going. So I know that some people were like asking ourselves, oh yes, will spec will be supported? Yes, there is a book that I'm finishing to write. For us, spec 2, this is a cornerstone. It took us something like 3 years to get it to where we want, and it means that we will continue really to maintain it. And this is really, we will not write any tools except that in spec, at least for Pharo. And then after we have some question, this means that people may want to have the possibility to use the capacity of a specific platform for specific things, and you can do it too. So this is not a problem. But we want a much better separation and a reuse of the logic of the tools. So just something that has nothing to do with that. In fact, we closed 1,400 issues just on the Pharo repo. I'm not talking about Iceberg or Microdon or things like that. We got something like 70 committers. What we see is that I see more and more people that never contributed, that are contributing. So this is nice. This is really simple to contribute to Pharo. There is a SUG video that we should put on the Pharo website that explains how you can contribute with Git. This is super simple. So I want really to thank here all the contributors, because that's not easy. That's not easy. And you know, we have different agendas. Sometimes we have a roadmap, for example, for companies and things like that. And then sometimes it is stressful. So what is nice is that Pharo 11 was a release that is less stressful than Pharo 10, because in Pharo 10, we did too many things. So what is important that you know is that we will continue. So we will continue to deliver. A word of teaching, because that's something that sometimes we forget, or not us, but as a community. So I really want to thank the people that are behind the support for Exercism. This is really nice. Exercism, this is a platform where people can learn new languages, and Pharo is one of them. And there was an interview, they presented Pharo. Of course, it was not totally true, but the intention was super nice. So I think that it gives us an exposure that is super cool. So I really want to thank people for that, because we cannot do everything. So on teaching, I just want to show you that. So there is this Pharo MOOC. They are super nice testimonies. I just took this one because I was really like, yeah, this quote make me work on the next one. I will show you the next. I will tell you a word on the next one. You see, so our culture of good design can represent us. For example, it's never easy to go to university and say, oh, I want to teach Pharo. People will say, oh, what is it? I'm not talking even about Smalltalk, because they said, Smalltalk 80, are you sure that you want to? No, Pharo. Okay. So in fact, usually I never try like that, because I always failed when I do that. What I do, I said, oh, I will show you how to do advanced design for real. And oh, I do that. For example, at Lille, there was a lecture, because I'm not a teacher at Lille, there was a lecture that asked me, can you do object-oriented programming in Java? The first year I said yes, but half of the lecture was in Smalltalk. And then after I removed Java from the title, I said, you know, let's do a lecture on object-oriented programming. And I did the inverse. So I did everything in Pharo and one lecture about the crazy stuff and complex stuff in Java, just that people knows it. And with a focus on test-driven and design, with this MOOC in mind. And for me, that was the way to be able to teach what I want and get something else than what is a static type system and what is the difference between dynamic and static type and things like that. Even if I do it in the lecture, you know, I do it differently. So now, this morning we finished the filming, I don't know, the recording of the lecture. So we had 61 lectures. So this is a MOOC that is called Advanced Design MOOC, which it is in Pharo, but it is only focusing really on advanced design, like visitors, like idioms, coding idioms, double dispatch, all these kinds of things. And that would be a super good tool to also push our language. And all the material will be free, Creative Commons. The the video, basically it will have taken, it's not finished yet, but I already spent 4 years on it. So, and for me, that's important because if I want to give a chance to have lecture around the Smalltalk / Pharo, that's my basically Trojan horse. But this is a super nice Trojan horse. So, and this means that everybody can use that. A word to finish. This is that, yes, yes, Pharo, this is our vehicle. This is not the end of the story. This is the journey, and we improve it daily. So this means that there is a high chance that if something bothers you, it bothers us too. But at the end of the day, we do the maximum we can. So there are plenty of space for improvement. I can tell you, I'm sure about that. What you should understand is that Pharo is yours. So this means that this is a really open source. You can really improve the system. You can send pull requests. We discuss them. There is no problem. You can have an impact. You see, for example, there is an old guy that I know, not an old guy. Chris is not old, but an old small talker from the VUB that is working in a company now in Belgium. And then now he was really improving the fonts, the size of the things, the scale factor, so that we could have a much better user look when we look at it. And then this is something that is not in our radar because we are too busy with other things. And I really appreciate, for example, what Chris is doing right now. We got an invited professor from Canada, which didn't know Pharo before coming, but he's language designer, and then he worked with us. We had a lot of fun, and he was fixing the Pharo compiler like hell. It was like, wow, a massive amount of improvement and things like that. And we really appreciate that. This is, I was like, wow, people can really get an impact and we get a better system at the end. So what you should know is that there is this Discord server, so you can be in touch with people. So that's super nice. You can ask questions, and we are from that perspective, we are a cool community. So I just want also to thank. So the list is not up to date because it is changing too much. But I want to thank all the teachers around the world that are using Pharo, and we can adapt. So this means that if you have feedback, we can. I want to have better tools for teaching, because we have a prof Stef with a limited interface, and now we want to improve that, because this is really a nice way for students to learn. We have also the research groups. The list is not up to date, but we have research groups that are using Pharo, and that's super nice. If you want to keep in touch and you are a bit far away from the community, there is this WordPress ugly interface. WordPress is terrible. I'm sorry, this is super terrible. I want to use Microdown and to have a blog post written in Pharo so that I can do something, but okay. Right now, I get this, so I publish regularly things that are happening, that are cool. Before I was using Twitter, but I stopped to use Twitter because I could not stand anymore Twitter. But the Pharo Weekly is always up to date. So, and this is the end of my talk. So we are there to really create good energy. We are open to contribution. We are open to working with people, supporting people. Feel free to join. Oh, that's a super old. That's a super old slide. And now I can answer questions.
Thanks, Stef. Thank you very much for this. There's plenty of comments in the chat and questions. So rather than looking for them, I think might as well that people got some questions that would like to raise again.
Yes.
And and just feel free to unmute yourself in a disciplined manner and just ask away. Just, reminder as we said earlier, let's keep it friendly. Let's keep it on the constructive side.
Just quickly, Giovanni, I wanted to say that I think I saw one of that I Have a Dream talks. I can't remember if it was the year that you did it, Stef, or the year before, actually, where you were kind of conjuring up this stuff. But I have to say, I am in awe that year on year, you've bit by bit pieced together some of those pieces. And, I think just watching some of the chat, I can see there's frustrations where, I got a sense of frustration from yourself where you've got an idea, it didn't quite work out. Some things worked out, some things didn't. But I have to say, to actually work on something that is, has quite an old base, and to keep bit by bit making improvements and trying different ideas, I think it is a testament to software design and discipline, and just, keep powering on. So I just wanted to thank you, because, even just this week, I saw Marcus publish something about, aspects of the VM and block closures, and I keep learning something every new from some of the things that you guys do. So, and this applies to other small talks as well. We in this community, in these talks, we try not to be like any, we're small talk agnostic, but I did want to call out that a big thanks to all the work that you and the team have done, and I think it's come out nicely in your slides. So yeah, just thanks. So I know in the chat there's tons of debates and things, and I'm sure there's lots of interesting questions.
I can have a look if I find. Wait. Yes,
I would suggest that maybe people just pose their questions again, because there's lots of different threads. There's been, like you said, some of the things that you raise are, can be controversial. Others not controversial. I think that can get lost in the discussion. I certainly think that the point here is about making improvements, isn't it? And looking ahead.
I have a technical question I put on the list about the UI. So I'm a big fan of constraint-based layout. So is there any thought or discussion about this in Pharo?
So in fact, we did. So at some point we did an experience with a layout. We took Cassowary, and then we plug it into a layout.
Yeah.
So Pablo did that. And then the problem is that it was really unstable from the layout that you get. And what we decided is that we need concentration. This is not something that you can do 3 months and then after you forget. So for us, what is important, and that now we are trying to discuss with INRIA to get another engineer, permanent engineer on Pharo, with a profile that is really the graphical aspect, the tool, the low-level graphical aspect, the widgets, and so yes. So you see, so this is something that I would really like to understand, but for us, our plate was really full. But we did an experiment, and then our conclusion was that sometimes the constraints, they were satisfying, but not in the way we wanted. So, so I don't know how. I know that the Apple user interface builder is using constraints or things like that, and then we were like,
yeah, and the web is full of it now. So the grid and the flex layouts is everywhere. It's very handy, very, very practical.
So that's something else. You see, in block, we have, in fact, there are layouts. Some of them are basically the same as in Android. So you have the flow layout, you have the grid layout. Then after, it depends of what kind of application you want to do. For certain responsive design things, you want layout that are adapting to the containers and things like that.
Yeah.
Now, when we were discussing, for example, with Thales, for them, they said we want to have the proportional layout that was missing. So, for example, last week or two, Martin, that is working on block full time, was working on proposing a kind of proportional layout, so that, because in certain domain, you want pixel precise position of your widgets.
Yeah.
This is another scenario. So we are looking at that. After, we always look at the maintenance of things. So is it tested? Can we maintain it?
Yeah,
But
okay.
this
No,
is
that's a question.
on our roadmap. You see, for me, the next really big building blocks beside the VM and the optimization and things like that. But this is, for us, this is another team internally. This is really this user interface, all the stack, basically. And we know that this is difficult, but this is really on the roadmap.
Okay, thank you.
So I have a completely different question. The fluid class syntax that you've introduced, the original class syntax was basically just a big keyword message. So could this new fluid class syntax be extended to cover other keyword messages? So there's some way of summarizing any keyword message.
Yes. Yes, basically. So maybe I didn't understood fully the question, but so basically what you can do is that the option, this is an open tomorrow, if we want to have another option, then we just add it. This is two methods in the builder and in the class installer. So
hold on, Stephane. So what I was saying really was this: is let's say I've got an application that has behaviors, and one of the behaviors involves a keyword message somewhere in the middle of the system, and it's a really big one. It's very ugly, and not everybody wants to provide all the arguments all the time. So could I use the same techniques you used with the fluid class creation method with an arbitrary keyword message?
yes. Yes, this is a lecture. This is a lecture in our MOOC, because the fluid design is nice from that perspective. What you see is that you have three kinds of messages. You have the creator, so this is the things like lesser than lesser in the fluid. So let me show you, because yes, this is a pattern. In fact, I just in the MOOC I just saw it as, oh, that's an example. But you see, so lesser here will create an accumulator, something that will accumulate the configuration message.
Oh, I see.
And then you have the configuration message in the middle that you can use the way you want. And you are not limited to have only keyword message with one argument. You could have multiple of them. This is what you want. And then the key point is that you have the terminator. So package here, this is the terminator. It said, okay, guys, when I'm invoked, please, I will not accept anymore from this flow a configuration. Because the problem is that for the methods that are in the middle, you don't know when to stop. So you have to distinguish. And in the C-side user interface, this is like that. In the render content on, this is the same. The width in C-side, this is the closing.
But it's difficult to spot, isn't it? Couldn't you have a better message for the closing, like package and close or something?
But package is cool, you know. You don't have to know that.
But you have to write a paragraph to explain that package has to come last. That's all. If you put it in the message, people could understand from the code.
Yeah. But
anyway,
you see,
doesn't matter. Minor point.
You will try, and then you will learn that it is not working, so you will adapt. So yes, Ken, tell us, because you are nicely raising your hands.
Sorry, I didn't know if, anyway, don't know how to raise a hand on this thing. First, to request that if you do a new format that's not chunk and not tonal, that you name the file format something to be with a suffix other than .st, because I don't like to open something out and have to parse it to find out what format it is. But aside from that, I really have to recommend maybe a more explicit modularity way of composing things. in Quiz, I can say feature require UI tools, and it goes, looks for that feature by name, checks the package, checks all of its requirements and the versions, and checks their requirements, and then loads transitively the stuff it has to. And that's led to a style of development that is compositional, that you tend to want to have a fairly small core, and then require or request the things that you want, and have all of their requirements automatically loaded for you.
But
And
wait.
This is, Pharo, I open up and say Smalltalk all classes size, and get a number that's more than 10,000. That's a large number of classes to comprehend. In Quiz, I get, less than 700, and that has vector graphics and syntax highlighting, Unicode, and refactoring tools, and yada yada. So having a core system that is easier to get into and for a novice to learn would be, I think, a real boom.
So do you want to?
So
I can
just
answer. So
it's very hard to shrink things down, but having a composition strategy would be very helpful for you, I think.
But we have a composition strategy. Every system, every package that is loaded in Pharo is loaded not magically. It is loaded via a baseline. The baseline is the architecture of a project. Baseline can depend on other baselines. A baseline said, this is all my package with all the dependencies between my packages. And I can have groups of baselines. I can group of package. I can say, I just want to load the core of this project, or I want the core of the plus the UI, or the core plus the test, and things like that. So what you get when you download Pharo, this is the things that we build. And we build them not by hand. We build them because we take the core of Pharo, which is bootstrapped, So maybe you don't know how Pharo is built. I will explain you.
As I say, I open the base image, and I would look for a Smalltalk IDE that then I could get in and go through the docs and see how it works together. But that's not what I see when I open it up.
Okay.
How if I was a novice user, which I mostly am, how would I get in and open up Pharo and then say, just show me the core IDE, and hide or eliminate all the extraneous stuff?
You can open the browser and then filter, for instance, just for the kernel packages, and you have the core kernel of Pharo. If you need other packages, and there's a lot of tooling inside. So the IDE, that's why you have a lot of classes now, because there is support for Git, support for other things. There is even a visualization engine towards R3 inside of the base Pharo image. That's why it is so big, but it is bootstrapped. So you can have your own, you can have a small one. And so you cannot compare it with the number of classes with Quiz. Quiz is a different target. Quiz is
no, I understand. Quiz wants
shaped,
to be a kernel system that you can grow, and that I understand the differences there. But what I'm saying is, for me, I'm a sort of an occasional Smalltalk user, and I get in, and with Pharo, I'm lost and confused. I just have to say it. And so I would like easier ways of stepping in and seeing what's there, and having an orientation that allows me to go forward with that.
Hi, can I make a comment to that?
Mm-hmm.
The Pharo class structure is actually a taxonomy, like a tree structure, and like the case in biology where you find a new species, you don't go through the entire taxonomy to find the answer. You need to be aware of the general structure, not the details. And it takes a little bit of study and time. You have to start at object and see where it goes and learn the key structures. And then you can use the Finder tool. Have you used the Finder tool?
Yes, I love it.
I don't use the Finder tool. I mean, unless you're talking about like I understand about file lists, and I mean, hey, I'm a general Smalltalk user. I get that. I've used Squeak since I was at Apple when the team was reformed, and yada yada, And before that, I was at Tektronix when with
Sure, I
instantiation
understand.
folks and like that. But I just say that I'm still confused. If I bring up Pharo and try to orient myself, and you know, if I want to do something and have to go through some of the classes that are there,
So
you
just
know,
that
it's more of a gradient that I have to go over to try to do something simple. It's just it's a lot that doesn't fit in my head.
I
I
would support
understand it.
Kevin.
Go ahead.
There's one problem I find very annoying is that I cannot see documentation for packages. So the packages are not there. There's no metadata. There's no
this is wrong.
documentation.
This
That
is
would
wrong.
give me a big picture.
Sorry.
Names won't help.
Sorry.
Sorry, it's there. It's all there.
Yes, you have package comment, you know, so.
Most of the packages don't have comments, I think.
Yeah, they don't have comments because people don't write comments, but you can have metadata.
That doesn't help me then.
So,
hey,
you know, what can I tell you, you know?
Well, no, I just tell you.
No. I'm just one data point. I'm just saying that I go in there and I've used a number of small talks, and I go into Pharo and I'm confused and I look around and it's huge and it doesn't all fit in my brain, so I tend to back off. So that's just one data point. And if there are easier on ramps, I mean, I understand the basics, but the amount of stuff that's there is, you know, it's killing flies with a trip hammer, you know.
Do you want that I reply? So I can reply. So first, for example,
sure.
I really like.
If you have time, I don't want to waste the group's time, but I'm just saying that, I, for one, get confused.
We really like the Finder. So we re-implemented, in fact, all the logic, especially for the support for example, because I love really this idea of the example-based discovery of things, because I don't remember all the methods in the system. Now, how Pharo is built. So there is a bootstrap. So if you go on GitHub, there is a repository that is inside Pharo that there is a bootstrap. So this bootstrap is a specification of a Pharo kernel without the compiler. So this means that we said, okay, we have a way to interpret this code so that we generate a binary format that is a special format so that we can load the first thing that this bootstrap. So we get a super small image. It could be smaller, but it is already small. And this is what the people are using. This is a variation of these images that people are using to have a 200K Pharo core running on Pharo.js. It does not have the compiler. It does not have tests. It does not have the packaging system. It does not have the baseline and all this stuff. So now, after that, what we do is that we load the binary code of the compiler so that from then on, we can compile code. So this means that in Pharo, you can have an image without a compiler and it can run. So the idea is that once we have that, then we load, once we have loaded the compiler, we will load the test framework as unit. Then after we also load the metacelo. So this means that the system developed by Gemstone to manage dependencies between packages. And then once we are at this level, we just use description of project to load things inside the system. Now we were thinking that, but this is a question of combinatorial explosion. We were thinking that we could ship a Pharo system without refactorings, without IDE, without many things, in fact. And then the user could be prompt and said, oh, do you want to have the graphical framework ROASAL to display whatever? Yes, no. And if you press no, we don't load it. But what is important to know is that we have all the, so some of the baseline are not nice, but we don't load package by hand. We load package because there is a description that says, oh, please load this package from this project. And you see, Iceberg is managed in a different project. The documentation system is managed in a different project on GitHub. Spec is managed in a different project. The tools that are built on Spec, they are in yet another project. This is just that we thought that to be productive, we provide a default version of the system where we can work and be efficient. So, but it is not the architecture of Pharo. Let people build a runtime basically that they want. And that's why I love so much the Eric on Bike project, because this company in Netherlands, they deploy a kind of naked object system within the web browser, and the kernel is Pharo, and this is working in a web browser. So that's super nice. So, and what you should know is that the Pharo is the only small talk that bootstrap from source. When I mean bootstrap, this means that at the beginning, there is nothing in the image. There is no image. There is an empty space, and then we load things inside, and then at the end we get we get an image that we can reproduce. And this is not by side effect. This is we can reproduce it. And for me, this is a really important. This is technical, so we don't put it in front because this is. So after, yes, just a remark. For
Okay.
me, often people.
A beginner's image that is slightly less than the kitchen sink, I think would be helpful. I mean, as I say, I open up Quiz, I got syntax highlighting, refactoring tools, vector graphics, all that fancy stuff. And it's less than 700 classes. And I open up Pharo, and I'm not familiar with the user interface, and stuff that I try to do, I would do normally in Squeak or Quiz, because the user interface is different.
Yeah,
I'm confused.
Yeah, this is
I'm
different.
just saying that
you know, seriously, Ken, if I go and I use Sweet, okay, it's different.
I know you'll be confused too. But
when I use Visual Studio, this is different. I have to learn. There is no magic. If you use JavaScript IDE, this is different. So this is like that.
Part of my problem.
Sorry, Ken.
Sorry. One quick one. Part of my problem is I have an old Intel box that I fire up 2-3 times a year to build something when it actually doesn't build elsewhere. But otherwise, my desktop system's a Raspberry Pi 4 running Linux, AR6, 64-bit ARM.
Yeah.
Pharo doesn't run there. I've got a Vision 5 too. I did the quick port of Open Smalltalk VM, and I can run Quiz and Squeak there. I'm not running Pharo there. So the machines that I'm using are not machines that typically run Pharo, and I think that's part of our problem too.
Hey Ken.
Anyway,
sorry to interrupt, but I think
the
problems you're talking about getting into Pharo, if you a copy of the free book from the site, from the book site, books.pharo.org. You'll get the Pharo by Example 9 book, and just do the first 5 chapters, but actually do the
I haven't looked at that probably since the first or second version.
Well,
so
no,
that could help me out. Thank you.
It will answer many of the questions you're asking, I promise.
Great. No, that's pointers are very very helpful. Thank you much. I apologize for burning everybody's time here.
Just that
I just had to say
and I have Pharo running on my Raspberry. I gave lecture with Pharo running on Raspberries. So after, you see, we do not spend time on that, but this is running on 32 and 64 bits. So now after, for us, we really focus on, yes, can people make real business with that? And this is just a different scenario. Now, if you contact us and said, okay, I want to run Pharo on this Raspberry version XZ, tell us, it will probably run. Okay, so if somebody has other questions, I see that Alfonso has its hand raised.
Yes, thank you. There's several things I'd like to comment on now that so much has been discussed. First of all, I see from this slide, the fluid class syntax, that it's following the fluid philosophy or technique of, as you say, building one keyword or one message after another, and then the final message package that will collate all of these messages and then build the class from this information.
Yes.
And it's using the regular Smalltalk syntax. It isn't defining a new syntax. It's just defining a new way to create classes through an intermediate builder class. So you're still going to use the same compiler BNF syntax to interpret it. So you don't need a new file system. And I hope that answers Ken's point and everyone else's. Who might have a question on that point.
Yes, Alfonso, you are correct. I didn't say it because this was obvious for me, but that was the constraint of the game.
Yeah, so yes, it's helpful to understand this is still the same regular Smalltalk syntax. What is different is that the keyword, the message to define a class no longer goes to the object or the object meta class in order to define the class. It goes to well, it does using just the less than message rather than one large message to build the class. So hopefully that this clears the air for others. I've created my own variation of Smalltalk, so I'm familiar with the syntax and the format, so that's why I wanted to point it out for others. Another thing is that the Pharo system is what it is because those who are building the tools are familiar with the system and the problems that they're encountering. They have adjusted and modified the tools, because that's the great thing about these various Smalltalk systems, is that they have different ways for the system builder to create his own system and modify it and then share it with the community at large. They're not beginners, so they have lost sight of the lack of familiarity that another beginner is going to have. So it's very difficult for me too. Is that it's Smalltalk? It's not too big. It's too steep of a learning curve, but it is still a learning curve for those of us not familiar with their tools. So someone like me, I'm going to have to make something to help myself and others become familiar with the system if we want to strengthen the community. The system is what it is. We deal with it where it is and help push it forward. And so if you want to experiment with it, as Michael has said, get the book, read the first 4 chapters, get the book Pharo by Example. Thank you very much, Michael. And go over the first 4 chapters. Hopefully by the time Pharo 12 is released, or Pharo 13, ooh, that's even a better number, we'll have tools that will allow newbies like us pick it up much faster, because we'll be promoting it to others and they will come see it, and they won't be turned off because of the lack of familiar landmarks. And so they'll pick it up and we'll be able to grow the community together. And finally, for those of you who don't know how to raise your hand, because the user interface for Zoom is also quite lacking, if you look on the bottom of the Zoom window, there is a reactions button, and you have to click on that and say raise hand, and Like now I click on it and it toggles and it lowers my hand. So I welcome all of you to make use of that, and please follow it until you're called upon. Thank you.
Alfonso, just a remark, because I think that, you know, this notion, every year I'm giving lecture. So this year, for example, we got a student that never heard about Pharo. They never heard about anything, in fact, except Java. So the lecture was advanced design, and we asked them, okay, you will learn Pharo, and then you should explain me what is the things that you put in place to learn it. Because this was really a working exercise by saying, okay, you know, if you go to tomorrow, there will be a new language, you will have to learn it. So what are the things that you put in place? What is really interesting, and I really like that, is that you cannot imagine how students can break a system. It's unbelievable. And for me, this is a really good feedback, because we always have path. We follow path. This means that the way I will work with Pharo, this is not the same way as Guichet, for example, is working, and I find bugs. Or Esteban, or we all have certain ways to interact with the system, because the system shape our mind, but we shape the system. So this is really symbiotic form. So for me, this is really important to be exposed and to expose new users, and then to look at what they are doing and said, okay, so I'm absolutely clear. For me, Pharo, from that perspective, is not really good. You see, this is the discovery aspect is not really nice. You get exposed to a lot of things that you don't care. So that's why the first thing that I do is that I use the filter when I code on something, or when I show it to students. I said, okay, don't care of the system, you know, don't look at it. This is too large. We don't care, in fact. And basically, you know, when we are working on a multi-million line system in Java, this is the same. You don't care of the system, because else you would die. I can tell you, I was working on an industrial application in Java. They have a class that is 3,000 lines. With C++, with a German company, they had methods that are 5,000 lines, 15,000 lines. You don't even want to understand those kinds of things. You only on demand. So for example, we have a lecture of, we ask the student, we said, okay, take large application written in Pharo, and then you have to do something inside. Because this is a skill for us, for example, this is a parenthesis, huh? But that was a skill to explain to them, how do you survive in the system without reading all the lines of code? Because you cannot, this is impossible. And then you see at some point, I don't remember who told me that, but there was a guy in a big bank in the UK that told me, oh yes, I worked 3 months on something, and I discovered that there was already one in the system. So the discoverability on large industrial application, they're also there. And
that must be a small bank if it was only one.
Yes, yes, exactly. So you see from that perspective, we never worked on this aspect. Now what we pay attention is that we try to get exposed to new people. That's why, just for the record, we will do a summer school in Croatia after ESUG to teach Pharo to students from all places in Eastern Europe and probably Europe, the one that want to come. So this is not like we are in our tower and then we come back sometimes and do things. Every year, last year we got in our team, we got eight third-year students coding in Pharo. And the funny thing is that there was a girl working on IA algorithms. And then at the end, I asked her, okay, what did you learn? And she told me, oh, what I learned, what I really like is that I can see everything. I can go inside and look inside. And I was like, oh, that's fun. That's fun that she discovered that aspect, because often people stay at the level of a black box. But so we are exposed to that. We try to eat our own dog food with a student. So this means that every year we have this year I did 3 lectures to show to newbies Pharo, L3, Master 1, 2 lectures in Master 1, 60 students there, 40 students there. I report the bugs, I learned from them. The problem, this is also a resource problem. So this is that where should we focus? We could work on the IDE and not on other stuff. So at the end of the day, we end up always with this question. That's why also you see typically the MOOC in our group, we never teach Pharo. We said, okay, guys, you take the Pharo MOOC, watch it, and let's get started. So this is also another modern way to access a system. Students, they are used to have YouTube resources and learn from there. So that's why in the Pharo MOOC, we have how to develop a class, step by step, publish the code, find information. I have even a video to show how to select text so that you can do print on faster. So the videos are there, and then we updated them. So this means that we read those videos so that students can follow with the recent version of Pharo. And then when we do major changes, we will redo the video so that people can get there. What I got from the student is that, yes, the IDE is a bit different from Eclipse because this is what they know, or from IntelliJ. And sometimes there are some things that are a bit strange for them, but that's okay. Huh?
Yeah, it's understood it's going to be different, but I'm really impressed with your desire to make a system that sort of fulfills the original vision as I understood it with Systems 80's release as well. The ability to create our own environment, to create our own future. So I want to work on both a module system because I need something like that. And I think I have some ideas on how to help that. And also some of these tools to help us gain the familiarity with the system, because as I said, it's new to me. So if I can help in that regards, I hope to be able to contribute.
Yeah, please. And you see, if you design a module system, we are interested because frankly, if you look at in the world, there are really few people working on those kinds of things. And we are always interested. That's why, for example, I was really interested into MIST, the kind of a Smalltalk system that Martin McClure presented some years ago. It's a pity because I think that after we got COVID and things like that, so I got lost into all kinds of boring stuff. But alternative, I'm also interested in what Dave Mason is doing around, I don't remember the name, this Smalltalk implementation that is doing in this Zig language. So we are interested to learn all kinds of experiments, things that can influence us and things like that. We don't believe that we know everything and that we know is the things that should be done. You know, we are really always in a learning phase. Basically, for me, I like this metaphor. So what I ask when we do research, I ask a guy to tell me if I should invest 1 year of engineer or more to put this stuff in production. So for me, I see myself on the top of the mountain, and I have in the special place in the mountain where I have 1 foot in one valley and another foot in the other valley. And my job, this is what is the stone that I should move from one valley to the other one. And you see, for example, we got a guy that worked on scoping class extensions, method extensions, or method extensions. And at the end of his PhD, Camille told me, you know, I have a nice model, but it requires a lot of engineering. So maybe just you could get the benefit by tweaking the tools. And that was a nice remark. It made me think a lot, because he said basically, instead of changing the language, maybe you can change the tool to influence the developer. This was about the dependency, like you have one package that introduces a method into a class, then I look at the class, do I see the method extension if I didn't import it your package? So how do we scope the visibility of method extension? And it was his PhD. And then for me, this is what I expect. So when we, for example, when we focus on the bootstrap, Guichet did the bootstrap of Pharo, 3 or 4, something like that. He showed, okay, we can do all this stuff if we have this architecture. And then we spend 8 months putting that in production. So, but for me, the point was that, okay, the research that was done convinced us, yes, this is good, we should invest. So that's why we are always interested into experiment, check how other things are done. You know, for example, I was looking at the way the refactoring engine is working in Java, for example, because I wanted to know. And then I discovered that the one that we have in Smalltalk is quite nice compared to what they have from that perspective, especially when you consider the amount of money that has been put in the Java IDE and things like that. Now, if you look at Intel G, for example, they have a much better way to do auto completion and things like that. So in Pharo, I didn't mention it, but we have a framework for doing auto completion, and we wanted to play with IA or statistical analysis to improve that. But the completion system that we have had the constraint that we should be able to customize it so that it works on image where you have 30 million lines of code. So for example, at Lifeware, they said, you know, we don't want to spend to wait 1 second so that the completion is working. And we said, yes, that's reasonable. We understand the pain. So, and then still you want to have the completion system that is relevant enough so that you use it. Because if it is fast, but it provides you bullshit, then he said, okay, between something that is slow, that gives me some feedback, and something that is fast, that does not work, what is the best? So in fact, so that's why we work on a completion system, and how can we compose heuristics and that we can adapt the heuristics to different kinds of systems, because you don't have the same constraints. So, but yes, so please don't hesitate. Send me, come and present stuff at ESUG if you are interested. You can, I really encourage everybody to do presentations so that we can see and discuss what people are doing and things like that.
Thank you.
Tim?
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Steph, I just wanted to ask you about the Markdown syntax, because I haven't looked at Pharo 11, so I just downloaded it now just to find some examples.
If you want to find an example, you go on the class side, on the class, you go on the method definition. There is a little button that is called explain or example, and poops, it shows you the markdown and the rendered markdown.
So what, like you pick something and then on the class side?
No, on the class, sorry. You go on the class, click on any class.
Yep.
You will have a fluid, and then on the side of fluid, wait, I can show you. I don't know if
maybe it's just yeah.
Go to a comment, to a class comment, and there is a syntax button.
Yes, there is a syntax, a little button that explains the syntax.
Oh, okay, all right. Because I was wondering, is like with the Markdown stuff, like the help menu in the new Pharo, it seems like that probably needs a little bit of work, because at the moment I don't think it's using that new Markdown engine, is it? Is that right? Or
it is. Then you have the documentation. What you can check is that you can, in the help, there is the documentation browser. You can browse comments and documents that are hosted in GitHub from within Pharo.
Is that? And is it, so it's using that Markdown, and I guess some of them are. Okay, I get you. I think it's just as people start to learn how to use it, some of them start to look better than the others. Yeah, gotcha.
Okay, using microdown.
Yeah. Sorry, microdown. I should say microdown. I think that was a good idea, by the way. I'd always annoyed me that we couldn't have richer comments. So I think you know.
So yes, for me, you know, I like Pilar because I maintain it, basically the compilation chain, because I want it to be free for the books and things like that, to have a format that I control. So, but I don't care of the syntax. So if people like Markdown, that's okay for me. I just wanted to make sure that I can refer to figures, because I like books with reference to figures, and that I can extend the system with some special things. For example, something that I didn't port it yet to Microdown and in Pilar, this is that the Pharo books, they were tested. So this means that when we display a code snippet, we were running the code snippet because we have blocks, we have code blocks that says, oh, this is a code block that is executable. So can you tell me if the code that I display in the book is correct? Because like that, we can validate the books. So we could do that, and it was fun in Pilar. And we just did that by extending the code block with some annotation, and then after we could script that. But yes.
For drawing diagrams and things, is that where the kind of the Roselle subset kind of starts to kick in? Is that easy to do now? Is that, I'm quite understood where that bit fits in, because I think isn't there like a mini Roselle thing? So there's an easy way to start easily drawing kind of diagrams and things.
So right, so that's good that you raised this question, because I did, you know, I did a super bad prototype, I don't know, 15 years ago in Squeak, where I was embedding PDF inside the code browser comments just because I wanted to show the design of the application. What I learned from the story is that this is completely stupid to store PNG. I was stupid, so I did it. And then I realized that what I wanted to do, this is, can I have a DSL? Can I have a DSL that I could map using the syntax, the Pharo syntax or the Smalltalk syntax, to describe the class and the relationship between the class? And in fact, there is one guy that did that. I read all the document. He did that in Plant UML. So
and Mermaid and Plant seem to be the ones that come up a lot. Yeah.
Yes. So this means that, so first, to reply to your question, we could have super easily in Microdown a Mermaid extension. Now, what we should understand is that sometimes people at GitHub, they don't really understand what they are doing, because you have extension facility in Markdown. When, for example, when you have a code block, you can say language equals blah blah. So this is an environment like in LaTeX, basically. This is something that this is like a function with arguments, and you specify arguments. When they introduced the math support, because the math support was missing in Markdown when we started, because the problem is that people that are writing books for IA, they need maths, and it was terrible. So now I should improve the support, but I know how to do it. So, and then they introduced the math support in Markdown, but they introduced the wrong way. So this means that they forgot that they could specify arguments. They force us, for example, to pass arguments of the maths, because when you write an equation, you want to be able to refer to this equation. You said, oh, look, I want to refer to equation 1. So in Markdown, what they do is that you do everything by hand. So you do the numbering by hand, you do the equation number by hand, you do bold by hand, you do everything by hand, basically. And it's like, wow, why they don't understand what is a template, why they don't understand what is an argument. So now they force us to use a comment to put the metadata or the argument of a math expression in a percentage. So I was sad, because I said, okay, an organization like Google, like a GitHub, could have a guy knowing what he's doing, and not just an intern. But in Microdown, this is managed well. So now after we adapt a bit to GitHub, because we want that the user can be familiar. So this means that if tomorrow people want to have a Mermaid support, this is super easy. What Casper did is that he has a full integration of Plant UML from within Pharo, because in fact he came to Pharo because he wanted to write documentation and things like that. So if you go on his GitHub, he has a lot of things. And then for me, what I wanted to do, and I always did not have the time, but if someone wants to play with that, that can be super fun. This is, can we have a DSL, a little DSL that we would embed into a microdown special tag? Because basically, microdown, the set of tag, you have a set of tag that is fixed, that is close to Markdown, so like that people get familiar, and this is rendered well on GitHub. And then after you have an extension tag. And from this extension tag, then you can do whatever you want. So this means that you could say, oh, I want my own UML, my UML node, and then you write your small DSL there. And then what we could do is that we could call ROASAL. We could script a ROASAL rendering based on the DSL. That was the idea. I proposed that, but the students, they were not good enough. They didn't take the project.
Right.
But it would be nice.
And there's a small enough core in base Pharo to be able to have that kind of documentation, or because that was always the thing. It's like then you had to like load ROSAL, and it's quite big if you want to do more complicated things. But I think something, you know, in defense of like, I get 700 classes is, you know, maybe a goal, but actually a few more classes to have some of this documentation and some of the basic building blocks. That's also an equally useful thing to have, right? So there's a tension between the two. So it's quite nice to have a mini core that you can actually provide some of these things and just make it easier, so you can actually have richer documentation and a slightly easier experience. So it's not always about classes; it is sometimes about UI and what you see in the base stuff, right? So that sounds.
You see, seriously, a team with. I would not even fight. I would not even try to have a good layout algorithm that would place automatically my UML diagram, because this is super complex.
Yeah.
But what you can do is that the DSL could say, oh, you know, I want to place this UML class at 100, 100 in the canvas.
Yeah.
Just specify a point and boom, we place it. And then we said, after we want an arrow between this guy, and then I want to place the other box there. Boom. And I wanted to have something super simple from that perspective.
Right.
So that people can just script their documentation. When you have a package, you click on it, and then you see, oh yes, this is a visitor pattern. The main class is that, the other main class is that, period. So yes, this is something that I always wanted, and I did. I was at that time there was no ROASAL and things like that. So, but yes, so I started to work, but this is super bad, on something that is called micro UML. So it was before looking at plant UML. Now maybe I would use the same syntax of plant UML, like that people are not discouraged. But yes, that would be a fun project.
Yeah, you're inspiring me now. It's interesting. But cool, thank you.
You see, the point, Tim, is that when we did microdown, we had this scenario in mind. So this is not, we did not do microdown just for doing it. I have plenty of other stuff to do.
Yeah.
And I just do it because nobody else does it. You know, this is, but I want to have a documentation system that can work symbiotically between Pharo and GitHub, because GitHub, this is the standard, and it gives us exposure. People look at our stuff. So that's really nice. So that's why it took me time, because I have to remove, I have to convert all, and I will convert all my book into microdown. I have something that converts automatically, but you have to check at the end because you have always a bug somewhere. And those kinds of scenarios, they are really inside the DNA of microdown and Pillar originally. So this is just that sometimes I have to take 3 months and then work on that.
Thanks, Stef. No, that's interesting. I think, it just sort of shows the kinds of things that are possible. So that's cool.
All right. Any more questions? I see people have slowly been trickling out of the sorry, but we still have quite a few people.
I would just want to say thank you for everybody, for Stef, for the talk and showing all the hard work that is behind this and what is coming. There is a lot of effort to make this happen. Thank you.
That's my pleasure. If I say new share,
Small question maybe.
yeah.
Is there like a roadmap or some official resource where we can look up what you're working at?
Wait, can you repeat?
Yeah, do you have like an official resource where we can look up your roadmap or what you're working at on the moment?
We have the meeting Friday. So Friday we will have a discussion to understand what we want to do and things like that. What I can tell you is that we are discussing with the people from Thales and people from University of Brest about the widgets. And then this is really the question of, okay, what are the features that we want? There is this question of what is the user value, because the team is putting that on the table. So this means that, okay, maybe this is important to clean the stuff, but what do we bring to the user? So Friday, we will have the first meeting. We will also discuss how do we want to structure the iterations and things like that. Last week, we did a meeting on the post-mortem analysis of the Pharo 11 release. What you should know is that with the consortium, we have a meeting every 3 months with the companies where we present what we are doing. People can also influence the roadmap. Another thing that is important is that don't hesitate to send us feedback. You see, because sometimes I have the intuition of something. Sometimes we have discussion. Sometimes I do not win. You know, I'm not. I am a benevolent dictator, and sometimes we don't do what I'm saying. Sometimes I'm wrong. So the fact that as a community, people put things on the table and tell us this is important to give us feedback.
Mm.
You see, for example, at ESUG once a year, a company told us, "Oh, Pharo is bad because we cannot embed the image in the executable." 3 days later, when we came back from ESUG, boom, we said, "Okay, here it is. You have it." So this means that I said, "Okay, if this is so important for a business that you need this feature, we will do it." We did it. Now you can embed an image in an exe and then
an onboarding problem I had personally was that I joined in the end of Pharo 8 and very much changed since Pharo 8, right? So it was somewhat difficult to know which things stayed in place and which will change over the next iterations, right?
Yes.
So I wasn't sure what I can rely on, which things I can't rely on.
Sure, I understand.
Yeah.
So in that case, you send a mail.
Okay.
You go to Discord and then you ask, you give feedback. So we do not change just for the sake of changing. You see, for example, I imagine that you were in the change between spec 1 and spec 2.
On the very beginning of spec 2, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you see, so it was not typically like that. I can reflect how we work. Typically, it was not on our roadmap. But then it became super important and we changed our roadmap and said, okay, we need these cornerstone things. We cannot continue. It was 10 years that we had a spec and we knew the limitation of spec. It was too slow. The design was show its limits. And then what we knew at that time is that if we change that, we will have around 4 years of effort. So it was not an easy move. You know, it was like, okay, this is super important because we want to keep the desktop and give the possibility of people to build a modern application. So the idea was we focus on spec, so like that people can use with a GTK backend, so like that people can use GTK when they don't want to expose ugly morphic to the people. to the user. So like that, it gives us a chance so that we can put another backend and throw away Morphic. The problem is that it takes time. So this was really the strategy. And I think that this is a strategy that we took 5 years ago. So that's why we started, that's why Esteban said, okay, this is important that we work on spec 2. Okay, we decided that. And that was not easy because sometimes you had to rewrite completely widgets because some of them were not at the right level, let's say it like that, you know. So, but yes, but my main message is that don't hesitate to send us feedback. You can send it can be via Discord, it can be via the mailing list, and this is things that we put in the it can be private mail that I forward to the consortium team and things like that. You see, like that we can consider. We have been approached by companies that are migrating to Pharo, and ideally we wanted to provide support for that, but it's difficult. So because after we can help also on doing analysis and saying, okay, that we know that this is missing, or this is an effort. You know, like for example, we got the Mongo driver was too old, so Esteban in the background was fixing it. So for example, the Mongo driver will be available normally at the end of the month and things like that. So, but don't hesitate to send us feedback. Yes.
What's probably also confusing for people coming new to such a live system is, of course, that we have, because it's a live system, the old and the new version of things in the system at the same time, because the old stuff is needed to keep everything working, and the new stuff is what we are working on. And yeah, of course, that leads to people getting confused about what they are supposed to be doing now. And we have a plan that we want to do it fast. And of course, we don't make the plan that fast. So we want people to use the new stuff, but it might not be ready yet. Yeah, there's always confusion there. It's probably unavoidable.
I think I talked to you, Stephane, in Discord. Is that possible?
Yes.
And the thing is, like, we are thinking about migrating, right? But we are aware that it's a multi-year process for us because we're a very small team. And transitioning from our older Smalltalk version into Pharo is just a lot of work, and I need to be able to make a judgment call on which things I can rely on and which will probably change, right?
Yeah, but you see, seriously, from that perspective, we can have a specialized meeting to help you.
Mm-hmm.
In general, we will not lie, you know. We no, but
I didn't think so.
no, but I mean, we are not in the selling mode, you know. We have nothing to sell.
Yeah.
So we will say, oh, pay attention, this aspect, okay, this is not really well done, or things like that. And we understand what is my suggestion right now. This is invest in test.
Yeah.
This is something that will save you, because even if you don't migrate, you get the output, you get something that is more agile. And I migrated Moose from VisualWorks, and without test, I think that I would not have done it.
Okay.
Seriously, because I did it. So it was really, so I know what is it.
Yeah.
And to the point that, for example, sometimes we kept the test and we throw away the code because the code was bad, but the tests were good. So like that, there were specifications of what we have to rewrite. So we rewrote it. But that's another story. So
okay.
In any case, this means that we can also help doing an analysis, you know, saying, okay, you use this feature, okay, we don't have the equivalent, or we could do it like that, or things like that. But also knowing, for example, for us, if we want to migrate, those are the things that are missing. You know, you said, okay, we don't have the Oracle driver versus blah, blah, blah. Okay, then this is good to that we know, okay, people don't have the Oracle driver. So, okay, this is, what do we do? I'm not saying that we will fix it. You see, this is, then this is when we take the input and put it in the roadmap. Then after, for us, sometimes if we do A and B or B and A, it makes no difference. But for a business, it can make a difference. So in that case, if people give us feedback and said A is more important, is really important for us, then we will focus on A. But this notion of feedback is important. So in general, we listen.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, so thanks for your time.
You're welcome.
Also me providing commercial support. I do not know how what they do directly, but Norbert Hartl has made an offer for a company here in Germany, which is called Pharo Pro, and they provide commercial support and services, so they might be able to help you if
Yes,
you
also,
need this from a commercial perspective.
Yeah. So we are working closely with Pharo Pro because we cannot do everything. So, but we are supportive. You see, that's what I said. You know, we had the discussion in the team last time. I said, so I met a guy at ESUG, we chat, blah, blah, blah. And then after he asked me, and I asked the team, can we help him? And then we realized, oops, they are using a Pharo 7 version. And I said, okay, let's do it, but we cannot do it every time, you see, because we cannot help people fixing things that we fix in the version 8 of Pharo just because they cannot migrate or they don't want or things like that. So but we had the discussion and we said, okay, let's help them because this is important. And but these kinds of things, they have a cost, so we should pay attention because the key aspect, this is how can we deliver a good version of Pharo. And but yes, so we are working with yesterday we missed the discussion, the sync point with Pharo Pro because we were recording the MOOC. So like that, you know everything. So yes, what I wanted to show you, team. I don't know. Do you see my screen with Pharo?
Yeah, we can see your screen. Yeah.
So you see, so this is, let's close it. I don't know what I did. So don't look at the color. I have a funky system. Yeah. So I have something that automatically pick a color randomly because I'm fed up with the gray. People in my team are joking. They said, oh, it looks like Squeak, but okay. Documentation browser, sorry.
Yeah.
So this is what Casper did. This is a limited version because I said to Casper, I prefer to have less features that are working like that. You see here, what I can do is that I can browse. This is a microdown file that are on the disk.
Right, yeah.
When you clone, of course, wait, if I have a class somewhere, if I click here, up, I jump here. Oh, yeah, this is nice. I have an hyperlink. This is nothing especially new, huh? Because this was there like that in Squeak long time ago. But at least this is a markdown rendered format. And here, normally you can also add go to do browse a specific GitHub browser, GitHub repository and things like that. So in the future, for example, you will have the possibility to read books. Now, for example, this version, pay attention that if you have a doc that is locally to your disk, you can edit it normally, if I remember. And here I can see the markdown format and the rendering things on the top.
Yeah.
You can normally, I didn't check that, but normally what Casper showed me back then is that when you are on your local disk, you can modify the file. When you browse a remote repository on GitHub, you don't have the privileges there. So this is more read-only, and we just render things. So you see, that's nice because we have all the infrastructure to resolve the things and these kinds of things. And then we were working on a tool just to edit any markdown things because I was not really happy with the one that I use. And what I wanted to show, this is this is the integration here. If I click on any things here, I will have these kinds of help syntax. where here,
Right.
This is just rendered. So it's a bit clever in the sense that you see this. So if I look at the code, where is it? Yes, here, the logo. So this means that here I'm doing a HTTP request, so the system can be configured if to not do request, or we can also have a cache. So this means that you can also load the things in the cache and say, no, you don't have internet access, so please don't go and fetch things. I don't want to access things. So like that, you don't have a timeout because you are behind a provider that you don't like, those kinds of things. So, but yes, so basically, and the nice stuff is that usually these kinds of things here, you don't write them by hand. So this means that if I look here, this is the comment of the class, and this is the annotation. This part is scripted, like in the, if I look, because this is more spectacular in this presenter, whatever. Ooh, what did I do? I copy paste something wrong. SP presenter. No, I broke. Wait, what I was doing? I don't know. I have something in my paste buffer. I don't understand why. So, spec. Do I have something here? No, I don't have. Where are the spec stuff? Common widgets. So usually what we have, okay, I want to see that. So we don't, so basically all these things are generated. So if I look at if I look at the comment, where is it? Oh, I'm dead. I don't, sorry, I'm confused. So it depends. This one is not generated, but there are some of them that are generated, and each class is given the possibility to script this aspect. What we do is that we provide a builder API, a bit like in C-side, so that you can script and you don't have to do string concatenation.
Right.
Like that, the system can evolve. If tomorrow we have a bug or we want to improve microDAM, we don't want to break everything and that we have to go and scan the string concatenation. So you have a builder, and using the builder API, you are abstract away from the actual syntactic representation of microDAM. Like that, this is nice. And
is it only at the class comment level, or like if you have method comments, does that invoke something microDAM related?
No, we decided not. So Esteban started to do these kinds of things because you see, this is a link. So in a comment, if I look at this one, so we are in Pharo, we are interpreting these things differently. So this means that if I click here, I navigate, you see, and I can navigate to package, I can navigate to methods. So if I do presenter, all presenters, for example, basically there is a kind of little DSL inside.
Yeah.
And we did not want it to have a special syntax because we want to be able to display that on GitHub without having a special keyword, because we can do a special keyword. Wait, I have to save the code, of course. So if I go here, now if I click, oops, I go to the method. So we have the navigation, for packages. The idea was not inventing a new syntax because else the people would see something super strange, because you can browse this comment, the one that are not generated, or the documentation. That's why you can have a live documentation, and the idea was, okay, can we just hijacked the backtick. And in Pharo, we do an interpretation. And in GitHub, we just display the GitHub rendering engine does not know anything about us. So we just display code like it does.
Yeah.
You see. So
yeah, that's cool.
okay.
Yep.
Okay, I think that we should conclude. I have a final point is that if you can attend a SUG, try to attend a SUG. If you have if a SUG has some free slots, so this means that, or if you want to join the conference and this is a bit difficult from the money perspective, we have also reduction ticket where things like that. So what I want to say is that you never know what will happen. The last time when we did ESUG in 2019, I would have never expected that the world would close after. So now I try to take every ESUG conference as something super cool. So consider that, because that would be a nice event this year. So
it's a great conference. I'm sad that I can't go for family reasons, but yeah, you're right. I encourage people to go if you can.